and get this carbohydrate topic underway. So first of all, are carbohydrates bad? Well, that depends, all right, on the type of carbohydrate. If it's processed and refined, yeah. If they're not, then probably not. Then no. Are they going to cause inflammation? Right? Do carbohydrates cause inflammation? Well, again, that depends. If they're the processed kind, yes. If they're not, then in most cases, no, they won't cause inflammation. A lot of that does depend on the condition of your gut, but for most of you, carbohydrates will not cause inflammation. Of course, that depends on the quantity. Is insulin bad? Well, that again depends. Insulin is bad when it comes to the quantities of insulin that we're talking about, but overall, inherently, insulin itself actually helps with satiety. All right, so it helps you feel satiated, satisfied, or feeling full after you've eaten. So that hormone is important. It's the excessiveness of it that is a problem. So can eating moderate amounts of carbohydrate, so keeping carbohydrate intake under control, help you with performing well in terms of exercise and in living a healthy lifestyle? Absolutely, 100% yes. And not only do I know this by the overwhelming amount of research that there is out there, but I actually know this as well because of experience. All right, it's been a long time. I've lost a lot of weight. I've tried many different approaches to carbohydrates, and I'm telling you, when you look at the research, and I also am going off of personal experience, the answer there is a resounding absolutely yes. Moderate carbohydrate intake is far superior for most people. Okay, so for most people. Now, when we look at how we're affected by very low carbohydrate diets, so we're talking we're talking high protein, moderate to high fat, and very, very low carbohydrate. So we're talking 5 to 10%. So typically a ketogenic diet, which is quite a popular diet of choice when wanting to lose body fat. But there are more drawbacks than there are to benefits, all right, when you choose this way of dieting. Now, I know that it is a popular diet of choice because of the result that it yields, but I want you to ask yourself this question. Ultimately, the weight loss that you achieve, all right, do you want your body to be in a state of health when you are done, or do you want your health to be compromised? See, the way I see it is, what's the point in getting rid of body fat if at the end of it you're hormonally screwed? What's the point? I think that if you look at your most ideal outcome, your best outcome, really we don't fundamentally want just the weight loss. We actually want the benefits that weight loss gives us, like being able to move much freer in our body, to be able to feel more confident in the way that we engage with other people, the way that we engage with the world, to be able to look at our quality of relationships that improve when we feel better about ourselves, etc. And all of that doesn't just come down to the way that you look, but it's predominantly about the way that you feel. So if by the end of your journey, you've lost a significant amount of weight, if your hormones are not functioning well, then you've only got 50% of what you were after. And in my opinion, the other 50%, based on the way that you feel, is what I believe what you were fundamentally after in the first place, which is to do with improving your quality of life rather than just the way that your body looks. So for men and women who are affected the worst when it comes to carbohydrate intake that is very, very low, okay, so 5 to 10% of the diet, if it's only 5% of what you're eating or 10% of what you're eating is carbohydrate, then it's actually women who are affected the most. It's women who seem to be affected the most, and this is perhaps to do with the fact that women tend to need to have a bit more, carry a bit more body fat than what men do in the first place, and this is predominantly to do with the fact that we have a lot more estrogen receptors in the body. So, estrogen is what's responsible for that fatty layer that sits around the woman's body and makes us look prettier. So we have over 1,000 more times the ability to lay estrogen fat stores down than men. So typically women, we are supposed to be a bit fattier than a guy. and this could also be to help the through pregnancy, so the fetus survive if we were ever to be caught out in starvation, that the baby would still be able to survive. So if you look at where those fat stores get laid down when you are pregnant, it's around the hips, the thighs, and that, you know, all around that area where the fetus is. So when we get carbohydrates and cut them off at the knees, then it significantly affects luteinizing hormone and estrogen and the way that our body makes progesterone and things like that, and it will play havoc on your sex hormones, on your desire to want to have sex. So your sex drive will be significantly impacted. Your stress response, the way that you deal with stress, anxiety, the way that you sleep, and the quality of your sleep and the quality of energy that you have when you wake up. So, you know, it significantly does play an impact on female hormones much more than it does for men. But that doesn't make men exempt from it either. When your carbohydrates are very low like that, and you have a moderate exercise regime, you follow a moderate exercise program, and we're just talking moderate, you can have a rise in cortisol and a drop in testosterone, and what that's going to lead to eventually is crappy workouts, right? Low recovery, which means muscle loss and fat gain around the midsection. So, you know, in the short term, you might get the benefits, right? In the short term because of the change, but in the long term, the drawbacks far outweigh the benefits for sure, right? So that's to do with sex hormones and those hormones. Let's take a look at the thyroid. All right, the thyroid is in the neck there, and it's a gland that is responsible for making hormones that determine the speed of your metabolism. All right, and what we do know for sure when it comes to weight loss, right, is that you do need to create a deficit in calories. Now, I strongly do not promote counting calories. However, there are much more effective and better ways to be able to track your calories, and we do that by portion sizing and becoming aware of what's going on with the body and listening to your cues and so forth. But, you know, fundamentally, you do need to have a deficit in calories created in order for the body to access your body fat. Now, if that deficit is too great, then it sends the body into starvation mode, and that's going to affect the output of T3 hormones, which is a hormone that your thyroid produces. So one of the side effects that you might feel of a sluggish thyroid, so we're not talking to the extreme of yet underactive, but just a sluggish thyroid, is that you feel cold, have problems with circulation and feeling cold, and also very tired. Right? If the whole, think about it like your engine, the whole engine just slowing down. When everything slows down like that, what you know is responsible is the thyroid, because the thyroid really is controlling the speed that everything is working at. And when you create too much of a deficit in calories too quickly, then thyroid input will go down. Okay, so that's how the thyroid affected there. So what has that got to do with carbohydrates? Well, it works the same way. If, let's just say that the intake of calories remained exactly the same, and or you just decreased calories just a tiny bit, so say by 200 calories per day, but you took a carbohydrate intake of say 500 to 250 of those calories, then thyroid T3 input is going to decrease. All right, so calories can be virtually the same, but if carbohydrate intake drops much too low, then that is going to affect the output of thyroid hormone. All right, and so what you don't want is by the end of your journey, or maybe you don't even get to the end of it, your thyroid's destroyed. It is, when I was specializing in sports nutrition a year or so ago, one of the saddest things I would see is competitors who had taken their body to just that ultimate level of, competition level, so being competition ready, but had destroyed the thyroid. All right, so I'm telling you that it's not about health when it comes to goals like that. That really is it's a sport, okay? It is a sport. But if you're health driven, health focused, want the benefits of a healthy lifestyle, it's got nothing to do with a low carbohydrate diet. So let me give you the ratios that I believe are the best for carbohydrate intake. When it comes to most of you, so like 70% of you, you're going to do well with a moderate carbohydrate diet. Okay, so that doesn't we're not really putting any focus and attention on protein and fats today. We're just talking about carbohydrates, but those two other factors do play quite a significant role in how the body responds. We'll leave that for another day. But for about 70% of you, a moderate carbohydrate diet is going to be good for you. About 25% of you are going to need a slightly lower carbohydrate intake than that. So say 70% of you follow about a palm. Okay, so follow about a palm size portion with your main meals. All right, now for about 25% of you, you're going to need about half that. Okay, so this is going to be dependent on your body type, and I'm going to give you a resource that you can use, which is our body type quiz you can go and take, which will help you figure out which one of those that you are. A few people do really well with a very low carbohydrate, what we call a ketogenic. So we're only 5 to 10% of your diet is actually carbohydrate, and that's very, very low. And those exceptions are if you're sick. All right, so we're talking like neurological diseases, like if you have epilepsy and you seizure, or if you have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. So those neurological diseases, you're much more sedentary, of course. And that plays a huge factor, but also when studies are showing that ketogenic diets are showing to be very, very effective in lessening those seizures. All right, so that's the exception. The other exception is if you have a metabolic condition, like if you're a diabetic, and a ketogenic diet will benefit you in the interim, right, to get you out of, as you transition into a much more moderate carbohydrate type of diet. So even for someone who is extremely sedentary and has a metabolic condition, it is only for the interim until you transition, so as not to destroy your hormones. All right, now like 2.5% of you, right, are going to be the exception, but certainly not the rule, and that's where your body is able to function super well on a very low carbohydrate diet. That's 2.5% of you, right? We're talking about the ultra athlete, right? The ultra athlete who just finds that their body is able to function super well on a very low carbohydrate diet, and that other 2.5% of you is going to be the same quantity of people that function super well on a very high carbohydrate diet. Right, so it's definitely the minority that function exceptionally on a very low carbohydrate diet and on a very high carbohydrate diet, and those there we leave to the athletes, all right, to the ones who really push their body to the extremes, and who have full-time nutritionists under their care. All right, so those are the exceptions. So what we know is in conclusion, that moderate carb eaters, people who have a moderate carbohydrate diet, perform and function feel better and are able to do life better, function better. Moderate carbohydrate eaters compared to people who eat very low carbohydrate diets get very, very similar results in terms of weight loss. But what we do know for sure is that for the majority of you, for those of you that have a moderate carbohydrate diet, you're going to feel better and be able to maintain those results better, and be able to follow through on a moderate exercise program better than someone who is maintaining a very, very low ketogenic carbohydrate diet, who end up overall with bad blood work and inflammation. So that's really the message for today, guys. I hope that you got some value from that. Overall, what we know is that it's not about whether one helps you, whether one is going to result in weight loss and the other scenario not going to result in weight loss. What we really looked at today is what are the long-term effects of what low carbohydrate diets actually do, and what are the side effects of that, and helping you get really clear on whether that is what you're after. So those portion sizes, just once again, remember, for like 70% of you, which is the majority, you're going to do well on a palm-sized portion of carbohydrates in your main meals, and for the 25% of you are going to do well with half. Now, I talked to you about a quiz that you could take. It's the body type quiz. It's on our website. Let me see if I can fit it in the screen there. It's www.generationhealth.co.nz for those of you who are on Facebook Live and those of you who are watching on Periscope. www.generationhealth.co.nz/quiz. Okay, so if you take that body type quiz, it's going to ask you some questions based on the different symptoms that you are experiencing about your hormones. It's going to ask you to add each of those symptoms together, some of which you didn't even know may have been contributing to the same hormonal imbalance. And then once the results are in, it'll let you know what is your fundamental hormone imbalance that you need to look at addressing first. And you never know, some of those are likely to have come from the history of dieting. In fact, I believe that is actually one of the questions that are in there. So go ahead and take the body type quiz. I hope that you guys got some value from that today. Feel free to like, comment, or share. And if you know others that can truly benefit from this message, then Periscope, you have the viewers, you have the ability to share this by swiping up and swiping across the screen. Facebook Live, and obviously you know the share, your share ability on the bottom of the screen there. So that's it for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. On our next topic. Have a fantastic rest of your day.